Let's do some prop watch for tonight. Seattle and Washington, Monday Night Football. Prop watch for tonight. Russell Wilson, third game back from injury for Seattle. Taylor Heineke, your quarterback for Washington, 249.5 for Russell Wilson, 246.5 for Heineke. It's about as close as we've ever seen. 1.5 on both for passing touchdowns. Almost exactly juiced, barely to the overside for both. Interceptions, there's a little difference. Over on Heineke at 0.5, under juiced heavily on Russell Wilson. But that really up and down is about as close as we've seen two starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, really. I mean, it really is. For a change, guys, I'm on one of these passing props. I'm on Heineke. Yeah, tonight. 239.5 is the number that I'm on the over with him.
Yours is a lot better than mine.
There was a pretty good amount of writing on the wall that they were going to activate Logan Thomas for this game, which they ended up doing. Just got an alert here on the phone. Ron Rivera said, well, because the other thing, so Ricky Seals-Jones is out tonight for Washington. And so with that, it's kind of one of those, not really much of a choice, but for him to play a decent amount of snaps. He said he's probably going to play between 30 and 50 snaps tonight, is Logan Thomas. And so you get him back in the lineup. Also, Curtis Samuel is going to go. He said he's going to be more about the 20-snap type deal. But here's the thing. With him, you're putting him in leverage situations, right? And so it's that helps a guy like Heineke as well, to have him out there, because even if he's just a distraction for a Logan Thomas or for a Terry McLaurin, that is A-okay with me, right? And so, so I'm on the over on 239.5 here. The other thing, too, is just Washington hadn't had much of a run game to speak of.
Nope.
And they've had much more success from an efficiency standpoint when they've just been throwing it. And I imagine here that, look, hey, it is the path of least resistance also, because like the only thing that Seattle kind of does well is the interior defensive line. And so you don't do something well as it is in the first place. That is the one area that they are kind of okay at. So I think Ron Rivera and company, especially with getting those two weapons back out there for Heineke as well, go ahead and go to the air. So, yeah, I took the over on 239 here. I think that's the way they go about trying to move the ball in this game.
I'm going to anticipate the receiving numbers right here. McLaurin, over. What are the receiving numbers? What do we got here? I'm going to guess. Bloop. Lockett, 67.5. McLaurin, 66.5. DK, 64.5. And everybody else, half of that or less.
Yeah, so I took just as correlated, as a correlated play, I'm over on 65.5 on McLaurin. 66.5 is negligible. You could certainly take that. I'm also over on Logan Thomas, 30.5, 32.5. For him is a little bit, just because he's a lower volume guy or whatever. But I mean, still, that's not to a point where I would not play him. If you look at how this is, I mean, it's a correlated play anyway. If I think Heineke is going to go over the yardage, then it's going to go to his top two targets. And if you look at McLaurin, he's got over this total in about half the games so far this year. But again, I actually think that getting Logan Thomas and getting Curtis Samuel back out there helps his chances and is better for him, because both of those guys have been out for so long that if you're a defense, I mean, it's very, very obvious how to go about defending Washington, which is shut down Terry McLaurin. And so getting him here at 65.5, I thought was really good, especially, again, like I said, correlated with what I was going to do with Heineke. And then Logan Thomas, the over as well. Listen, like I said, they're not going to have much choice here. I mean, he's thrust back in he was going to be the starter anyway, but he's thrust back into a much bigger workload probably than they would even have liked right out of the gate, because the other tight end is out tonight. So he's going to have to get out there, and he's going to have to run routes, and he's going to have to be a part of the offense tonight. So, yes, so I'm on the over on him as well in this. And I actually feel pretty good about this. I like that bet.
This is the most stacked Washington has been all year. Biggest group of receivers that they've had in any particular game. Samuel this year, 4 catches, 19 yards, and an injury-riddled first campaign with Washington. And then finally the rushing stats, or the rushing props, I should say. Antonio Gibson's at 65.5, and the Seahawks, who want to establish the run as always, Alex Collins at 53.5.
There was just too much here for me. There was just too much unknown here for me on the rushing side of things, because you look, I mean, we assume that Alex Collins on the on the Seattle side is going to get, the bulk of the carries, because that's the other thing about this is Rashad Penny and Travis Homer are both out tonight for Seattle. So it's basically Alex Collins and DJ Dallas who they have tonight. They elevated a guy off the practice squad as well. But look, man, who knows with Russ? I mean, like, who knows with Pete Carroll? I mean, it could be half Alex Collins, half DJ Dallas. This guy that comes off the practice squad could get a whole bunch of carries as well. Like, I just don't know how it's going to go. I mean, I think there's a lean to me, at least on the under on Gibson for that side of things, but not enough of an edge for me.
What about two mobile quarterbacks? Heineke 18.5, Russell Wilson 14.5. No part of that either.
No part of that.
Okay. All right. Prop watch. Seattle, Washington. Not Seattle, Washington, but Seattle versus Washington.